The real estate industry just pulled off one of the greatest magic tricks of the last decade, and most people didn't even notice. It gave you all the data in the world and somehow still left you broke at the closing table. Think about it, 10 years ago, finding a home felt like decoding a secret language only agents and insiders spoke fluently. Then Zillow, Redfin, and a dozen other platforms showed up, handed you the keys to the kingdom, and said, here's every listing, every comp, every price history you could ever want. We called it a revolution. And honestly, it kind of was, but only half of one. Because here's the part nobody put in the press release. Making information free did not make homeownership cheap. You can now spend 6 months scrolling listings in your pajamas at 2 in the morning, fall completely in love with a house, make an offer, get it accepted, and then, somewhere around day 45 of escrow, get handed a closing disclosure that reads like a financial horror novel. The transaction gap is what we should be calling this, and it is the dirty little secret hiding inside proptech's greatest success story. The search phase got solved, the deal phase got ignored, and that is exactly where the money quietly disappears. Here is the wild irony at the center of all of this. The same rising home prices that made everyone feel wealthy on paper are the exact engine powering inflated commissions. A 6% commission on a $300,000 home from 1995 is $18,000. That same 6% on a $550,000 home today is $33,000, even if the agent's job didn't get one single bit more complicated. The math scales with the market, but the work doesn't, and we've all just been politely nodding along like that makes perfect sense. Behavioral economists will tell you that uncertainty is the silent killer of major financial decisions, and real estate is basically uncertainty wrapped in a bow. When buyers and sellers can't calculate their true net proceeds until the 11th hour, they hedge, they stall, they walk away, not because the deal was bad, but because the numbers felt unknowable until it was almost too late to back out without losing earnest money. History actually has something useful to say here, if we're willing to listen. Every major industry that democratized information eventually had to democratize its pricing model too. Think airlines with transparent fare breakdowns. Think insurance comparison tools. Think flat fee legal services disrupting the billable hour model. Real estate is simply the last major consumer transaction still operating like pricing is proprietary information. Now, some new platforms are starting to actually address this with fixed fee listing models, and the logic is almost embarrassingly straightforward. If the complexity of selling a home doesn't meaningfully change whether the price is $400,000 or $800,000, then why should the fee double just because the market moved? A platform called Only, for example, is experimenting with exactly this kind of upfront cost structure, letting sellers know their actual expense before they're emotionally and logistically committed to a deal. That kind of clarity isn't just a nice feature, it's a fundamentally different philosophy about who the technology is actually serving. The misconception worth addressing directly is that fixed fee models mean lower quality service, and that is just the incumbent industry talking. Predictable pricing and professional service are not mutually exclusive. In fact, knowing your costs from day one lets you plan better, negotiate smarter, and make decisions based on real numbers rather than best guess estimates that quietly shift on you. What history teaches us practically is this: position yourself in the parts of the market where the structure is changing, not just where the hype is loudest. Disciplined, unemotional strategy means understanding your true costs before you fall in love with a property, not after. And that applies whether you're a first-time buyer or a seasoned investor who's been through multiple cycles. The process always matters more than the timing. And sizing your decisions around what you can genuinely afford with full cost visibility beats chasing a perfect moment that may or may not come. Patience built on accurate numbers is a strategy. Patience built on wishful math is just waiting. At its philosophical core, this shift in proptech is about something simple: fairness. Not fairness as a political slogan, but fairness as a practical expectation that the people writing the biggest checks of their lives deserve to know exactly what those checks are for from the very beginning of the process. The next wave of real estate technology will be measured not by how many listings it can surface, but by how dramatically it can shrink the gap between what you think you're paying and what you actually pay. That gap closing is not just good product design, it is the single most meaningful thing the industry could do for housing accessibility right now. And when you're ready to start navigating all of this, whether you're looking at real estate investing, need home contracting, work, or want to connect with the right lenders, check out our links in the description below.